It's Dawson Weidrich here, and welcome to the first lesson and first video of Farsi time. And so basically my idea for this channel is it's going to be an easier way for people to learn the Persian language, and it's also going to be a free way that I feel like is very much needed nowadays because everything is basically subscription based. You have to pay for certain programs, and that is not what I want here. I want this to be a very easy and accessible way for those of you who want to learn the Persian language to be able to do so. I've been learning Persian for the past 5 years, and I've had the chance to interact with a lot of Persian communities, especially out in California, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think it's such a very interesting language and a very vital one for us to learn. And in fact, there's a lot of people out there, a lot of companies, a lot of people that are trying to hire people that speak the Persian language, and so if you have that on your resume, I mean, that just boosts you up that much more. And so again, the goal of this channel is to make simplified lessons to get you started on the path to becoming fluent in the Persian language. Now, before I get fully started in this lesson, I just kind of want to talk about the Persian language for a second. Before the Arabic influence on Iran, Farsi was originally called Parsi. Of course, that makes sense because it was the land of Persia back in the day of the Persian Empire. And when the Arabic influence finally started to settle in, the Arabs decided to change it from Parsi to Farsi because the Arabs do not have a P sounding letter in their version of the alphabet. And that is, of course, why Farsi now looks very similar to Arabic, especially their alphabets are extremely similar. But besides sharing similar alphabets and occasionally sharing a word here and there, the languages could not be further apart. It's even more different, like Portuguese and Spanish. Those are very different versions. They share similarities, but Arabic and Farsi are even more different than those, even though they look very similar to each other. Arabic sounds a lot more harsh and hard and has some different sounds that are hard to make. While Farsi has that too, Farsi is a little bit more of a smooth sounding language. In fact, if you were to listen to it, you'd guess it'd be more of a combination between German and French than, let's say, Arab or Urdu or one of those. And so we're going to start with this first lesson, which is, of course, the alphabet, because how else are you going to start a language by learning it? And so we're going to start off with the first letter of the Farsi alphabet, which is this one right here. By the way, we're going to be going from right to left because that is how the Persian's write is right to left. That'd be something to get used to. But this first one is called an aleph. Make that a little thicker for you guys so you can read it. And this one makes the A sound, the A sound, the A sound. Basically all the same sounds that the letter A in the English language can make. Now, this language can this letter, can sometimes also make the O sound, but that is pretty rare and oftentimes will come with a symbol like, say, this over top of the aleph. So mostly just keep in mind that this is the A sound. The next one is a B. It's like a combination between like a bay, like a dock of a bay, and like just an airy H at the end of it, like a bay. And so that makes the B sound. Pretty basic. There are a lot of letters in this alphabet that are very similar and make the exact same sounds as letters in the English alphabet, but you're also going to encounter some letters that are completely different and foreign to you. Don't let that scare you. It's just very interesting. The next one is a P. This one makes the P sound. Now you can see that there's a difference in the amount of dots underneath the same shape. That's what makes it a different letter. And so if you have one dot underneath this shape, it's a B. If you have three underneath, it's a P. Pretty simple. The next one is a T. This makes the T sound. Now there are multiple letters in the Persian alphabet that make the T sound, and so it will get a little confusing, but I mean they don't interchange in words, which can also make it a little bit more confusing, but it just makes it all that much more interesting. And so again, that's the T sound. Next one is a S, which makes the S sound. Now the same thing with this one, there's multiple letters in this alphabet that make the same sound, and we'll get to those in a little bit, but that's an S sound. The next letter is a Jim. Like you drive your Jeep around, only it's Jim. This one makes the J sound. Next one is a Che. Now, unlike the English language, this one is a sound that usually would make or take two letters in the English language to make. So it's a ch sound, like a cheeseburger. Next one is a hay. Like hay is for horses. And this one, of course, makes the H sound. Now, there's another letter in this alphabet called a hay as well, but they are a little bit different. Like, for example, this one's called Hado Jimi. You don't have to remember that. You just have to remember that this makes a H sound, right? And there's another one that's called a Hado Cheshman. We'll talk about that later. Let's erase that here. The next one is a Che. This is one of the letters where we do not have this sound in the English language. And so Che, I'm just going to write it down as a KH. And it's very much a scratchy back of the throat sound. This is kind of where you can hear a little bit of similarity between Persian and Arab. And it's just that hard back of the throat sound. And it can be a little uncomfortable for English speakers to start using it at first. I know it was for me when I first started using it a lot in my sentences. But you get used to it after a while, and it's a very cool sound to be able to make. The next one is called a dal. This one makes a D sound. Like, for example, my first name is Dawson, and so I would spell it out in Farsi beginning with the letter dal. Next one is a zal. This makes a Z sound. Now again, there are multiple letters in the Persian language and Persian alphabet that make the Z sound, but this one's called a zal. The next letter is a re. Now, not necessarily like a ray of sunshine. You don't have to stretch it that far, but it's like a re. In fact, let's put a EH here. Re. And of course makes the R sound. Pretty simple. Next one is a Z. This is another one with the Z sound. So you have Z and Zal that make the Z sound. The next one is another letter that we don't necessarily have a sound for in the English language. This is called a J. And we write that just Z-H-E. And this is where you can kind of hear the French sounding parts of it. And it just makes a J sound. Like, for example, how they say the word Japan in Farsi is Japon. And that sounds extremely French in and of itself. I mean, you hear that word without the context, and you think, oh, that's a French word, which is most definitely related to that and derives from French. Now, the next one is a scene. Like how people in the Midwest say, I saw that. They say, I seen that. That's exactly what this is. And this is the S sound. Now, you might remember seen and say both make the S sound. The next one is a sheen. Like Charlie Sheen. This makes a sh sound. The same thing that a SH combination in the English language would make. Now coming up is another S sounding letter called a sod. Like you lay down sod in your garden. That is an S sound. So again, you have seen, say, and sod. The next one is a zod. Looks very similar to the sod, except of course for the dot on top. This is another one with the Z sound. So now you have Zod, Ze, and Zol. The next one is a Ta. Like tall, but without the L's. And this makes a T sound. So now you have Ta and Te. Two ones with the T sound. The next one is a Za. Like huzzah, magic powers. And this one makes a Z sound. Yet another one, I know. Za, Zod, Ze, and Zol. Multiple Z sounds. It's by far the most in this alphabet compared to the rest of them. Now the next two letters are a little bit, not a little bit, very foreign to us English speakers. The sounds they make anyway. And this first one is called an ain. It's almost like ain't nobody gonna mess with me, only without the T. So ain. And it's, when it's in a word, it's mostly just a quick stop. So for example, there's a religious term in the Farsi language called ta'amid. Now many religions share the same concept, but it's the concept of baptism, like in the Christian's faith and other faiths like that. And so the word is called ta'amid. And you hear that stop in the middle of the word, a really quick and abrupt stop. That is what the ain is. And so I'm just going to put a line here to represent the stoppage in the word. It's a very quick stop. It's not one you have to dwell on very long. It's not like a 2-second pause. It's just a very quick and subtle stop. The next one is a qain. Qain is one of the most interesting letters in the Persian alphabet. It's like a very hard G, like qain. Like you almost make it in the back of the throat near the uvula. So it's a qain. Qain. It's one I had a problem with for a long time, so I'm just going to make a really, really hard G. The next one's a familiar sound. It's Fey. Like Tina Fey. And that, of course, is an F sound. The next letter is another very odd letter in this language. It is called Qaf. It's also a very hard G sound, but it's not quite as hard as the Qain sound. And again, it's Qaf. And so I'm going to do a... Let's see. I'm going to do a squiggly line right here so you know it's a little softer than this arrow one here. So you have Qain and Qaf. A little bit softer. This next one is a cough. Yes, like for example, like coughing. Yes, that's exactly what it's called. And that is a K or a hard C sound. Just a K. Like cat. You know. The next one is a Goff. Like Jared Goff, if you know football. The Rams quarterback. And that has a G sound. Very simple. The next one is a lam. Kind of like a llama. That sound anyway. And this is a L sound. The next one is a meme. Yes, that is what it's called. It's called a meme, I know. But it's an M sound. One of my dreams is actually to make a meme about the letter meme, which would be actually kind of fun. And the next one is a noon. Like we are going to have a hanging at high noon. And that is an N sound. The next one is a Vav, which is a V sound. Now this is kind of interesting to me when I first started learning, because my last name's Wiedrich, which of course begins with a W, but they do not have the W sound in the Persian language. In fact, it's the same letter that's used in Arabic that makes a W sound, but in Farsi it's only a V. And so whenever I would say my last name around Persians, I'd say Wiedrich instead of Wiedrich so they could actually understand it. And they could actually make the sound back. This next one is called a hey. Now remember how I said how this one right here, this hey, I'll write it off to the side, was called a hey do jimi. This one is called a hey do cheshma. It's not as important to learn that right now. It's just an interesting thing to point out to differentiate between them. We'll get to the reason why it's called a Heido Cheshma, because there's actually a little bit of meaning in there. But just know that this is a Heido Jimi, or just a Hey, and this is a Heido Cheshma, also just a Hey. This also just makes an H sound. Now this last letter is a Yay. Like, yay, the alphabet's finally done, yay. This makes a couple sounds. This makes a Y sound, like for yes. The E sound, like an ew. Or like an eel. Or an S sound. Like, for example, you have two different versions of the sound in the word khayli. This is the yay right here, and that makes the E part of the sound. And this is also yay right here. We'll get to how they like connect letters and such and how they change in a future video. But just be assured that this is a yay as well. And this does the whole e part like a khayli. Khayli. And so you can see the different sounds in there. So thank you guys so much for tuning in to today's episode. And again, I hope that this was very helpful for you guys to get you started learning the letters as well as the sounds of the Persian language. If you'd like to see more videos like this and get more in depth into the Persian language as far as reading, writing, and speaking, as well as numbers is concerned, definitely like and subscribe to this channel for more future content. And I'll see you guys next time.